The great metal palace of Empress Solara stood high above the dark clouds of her world. Its walls shined like silver, and its towers reached the sky like sharp spears. But inside this powerful palace, hidden far from the eyes of the Empire, was a room almost no one knew about. It was the secret nursery, a place protected by heavy doors, silent guards, and invisible cameras. Inside this quiet nursery lay the most precious beings in the entire kingdom, the newborn children of the Alien Empress. Each child rested in a floating crib that glowed with soft blue light. Their tiny bodies were covered in smooth silver skin, and their small antennae twitched with every sound. But no matter how much light filled the room, the children did not react. Their eyes, large and bright, did not follow movement because they were blind. The Empress knew this from the moment they were born. She felt fear the moment the healers whispered the truth. Blind heirs meant weakness. Weakness meant rebellion. And rebellion meant death, not just for her, but for her whole bloodline. So she kept the children hidden. No one outside the palace knew they existed. Only one outsider stepped inside the nursery every day, a human janitor named Ethan. Taken years ago during a raid on Earth, he was quiet, obedient, and kept his head low. That was why he was allowed near the royal children. The Empress believed he was harmless. A simple worker. A captured human with no family, no power, and no future. But she still watched him through her secret cameras. Ethan entered the nursery at the same time every day, pushing a small cleaning cart that squeaked softly on the floor. He always paused at the door, took a long, slow breath, and then walked inside with gentle steps. The Empress watched from her private chamber. Her eyes narrowed. Ethan cleaned the floor, wiped the machines, and checked the temperature of the cribs. But he did everything slowly, almost carefully, as if he respected the place more than a prisoner should. He spoke softly to the children, even though they could not see him. "Good morning, little ones," he whispered one day. "I hope you slept well." The Empress leaned closer to the screen. His voice was calm, warm, too warm for someone serving the empire that destroyed his world. Why was he soft with her children? Then something strange happened. One of the blind children turned its head toward Ethan the moment he spoke. The child's antenna flickered with a small spark of blue light. The Empress froze. That had never happened before. Ethan did not notice her shock. He simply walked to the crib, placing a gentle hand near the child, not touching, just close enough for warmth. "You're stronger today," he said with a small smile. "I can feel it." Feel it? How could he feel anything about alien biology? The Empress replayed the footage in slow motion. She watched his hand, watched the tiny blue spark. It made no sense. Humans did not have energy fields. Humans did not understand alien senses. Yet the child responded to him. Her hearts beat faster. The next day, she watched even closer. And she saw something even more impossible. As Ethan wiped the side of a crib, he paused, looked at the child, and moved his hand slowly in the air, left, right, left. The child's head followed the motion perfectly. As if it could see him. But blind children could not see anything. Not light. Not shapes. Not movement, unless... The Empress leaned forward, eyes wide, cold breath shaking. Unless Ethan understood something about their blindness that even she did not. She ordered her cameras to zoom in. Ethan's hand glowed faintly, so faint that a normal guard would never notice. But the Empress noticed everything. A soft golden shimmer surrounded his fingertips. Ethan did not see it. He simply kept moving his hand gently, helping the child track the motion. Her mind raced with questions. Why did her children respond to him? Why did they trust him? And what was that shining light around his hand? The Empress stood from her throne, shaking with anger and fear. "This human knows something," she whispered. "Something impossible." But she did not stop him, not yet. She needed to know more. She needed to watch. She needed to understand why her blind children reacted. to a human better than they reacted to their own. Mother, she played the footage again and again, each time focusing on the faint glow around Ethan's hand. And with every replay, one terrible thought grew in her mind. What is this human really doing to my children? The palace morning began with the same cold silence. Metal halls hummed softly with power, and the guards stood like frozen statues. Yet inside the secret nursery, something new had started to grow, something the Empress could not explain. Her blind children behaved differently around the human janitor. Ethan thought when he stepped inside the nursery that morning. Pushing his cleaning cart, he looked tired. Dark circles sat under his eyes, and his steps were slower than usual. But even in his tired state, he paused at the door, took a deep breath, and whispered, "I'm here again, little ones." The nursery lights flickered in response. The Empress, watching from her hidden control room, felt her skin tighten. No newborn alien had ever reacted to a human voice before. Ethan walked toward the first floating crib. The baby inside moved its head, trying to sense him. It lifted a tiny hand, reaching out at the empty air. Ethan smiled sadly. "You remember me," he said softly. The Empress zoomed her cameras, noticing how the child's antenna glowed faint blue. That glow happened only when the child felt strong emotion. But why was a human causing such reaction? Ethan placed a warm cloth near the crib and began cleaning the small machines connected to it. His movements were calm, steady, patient, almost caring. The Empress hated that. She wanted him to be afraid. She wanted him to be broken, like all other captured humans. But Ethan was not like them. He followed orders, but he kept something inside himself, something the Empress could not name. Her advisor, General Vacher, entered the control room. "Majesty, you have watched this human for many days. Why not remove him? I can assign an alien caretaker." "No." The Empress raised a hand to silence him. "Not yet. I want to understand why the children react to him." "Maybe it's an accident," Vacher suggested. "No." Her voice turned colder. "There are no accidents in my nursery." In the nursery, Ethan finished wiping the machines. Then he did something new. He sat on the floor, not beside any crib, not near any camera blind spot. Just on the plain metal floor, legs crossed, hands resting on his knees. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The children reacted at once. Their antennae lifted. Their bodies turned toward him. A soft vibration filled the air. Like a distant hum, the Empress leaned forward with sharp interest. Ethan began humming a slow rhythmic tune, soft, low, and surprisingly beautiful. It wasn't a human song. The tones were strange, broken, uneven. Almost alien. The children responded. They hummed back. The Empress's eyes widened. Newborns could not mimic sounds. Their senses were still developing. But somehow, they copied the rhythm perfectly, following Ethan's tune like a guide. "How does he know our patterns?" The Empress whispered. Her advisor frowned. "What patterns?" "Those vibrations," she snapped. "Those are ancient sensory codes our species used before language evolved. How does a human know them?" General Vacher hesitated. Ethan should not know anything about ancient alien codes. The Empress ordered her scientists to dig deeper into Ethan's past. Hours later, an urgent report arrived. "Majesty, Ethan once worked on Earth in a restricted lab. He studied captured alien DNA samples." The Empress stiffened. He knew alien biology, but worse. Ethan never told them this. He hid his knowledge. He pretended to be simple when he was not. Back in the nursery, Ethan opened his eyes slowly. His humming stopped. The children grew restless, making soft vibration cries. Ethan raised a hand. "Easy, easy. I'm here." His voice calmed them instantly. The Empress felt something heavy tighten in her chest. A mix of fear, anger, and something else she refused to name. She watched as Ethan stood up and approached the third crib, the child who never reacted to anyone. But when Ethan placed his hand near the crib, the silent child suddenly released a sharp, loud vibration wave. The entire nursery shook. Lights flickered. Machines trembled. Guards outside grabbed their weapons. Inside the control room, alarms blared. The Empress stood instantly, her heart's pounding. What happened? Ethan grabbed the crib, steadying it. It's okay, he whispered. And the child calmed. The Empress stared, unable to believe her eyes. Even she could not calm the child that fast. Her insides twisted. This human understood her children better than she did. Her voice trembled with cold rage as she whispered to herself, "This is no ordinary janitor. He is hiding something, and I will uncover it." She rewound the footage and saw it again, the faint glowing light from Ethan's hands, not blue like her children, not white like alien healers, but a strange golden shimmer, impossible, unnatural, humanly impossible. The Empress leaned back in her chair, mind racing. Ethan knew more about alien senses. Ethan calmed the air with one whisper. Ethan carried knowledge he never should have. Who was he really? And why did her blind children trust him more than anyone else? The tremor in the nursery did not fade quickly. For several long seconds, the walls continued to vibrate, as if the palace itself had felt fear. The lights above flickered in weak pulses, struggling to stay alive after the shockwave. But inside the nursery, something even stranger was happening. The child who released the powerful vibration wave now lay quiet and calm, its tiny hands gripping the edge of the floating crib. Ethan stood beside it, breathing hard, trying to steady both the crib and himself. He was shaking, not from fear, but from recognition. The Empress watched closely through her cameras, her narrow eyes catching every tiny movement. Her guards rushed to the nursery doors, ready to storm inside, but she stopped them with a sharp order. No one enters. Not yet. Because what she saw in that moment both terrified and fascinated her. The child's antenna slowly pulsed with a deep, violet light, a color no royal bloodline had shown for generations. Violet meant rare power, a gift that appeared once in thousands of years. But the child did not react to the Empress's voice through the speakers. It did not react to the guards' noises outside the door. It reacted only to Ethan. He leaned forward, placing his hand near the crib again, and whispered gently, "You're okay. I know that sound. I know that feeling." The child's violet glow softened the blue. The Empress's heart pounded. How did this human know anything about ancient alien vibration abilities? Even her highest scientists barely understood them. Her confusion grew into something darker. Curiosity mixed with fear. Ethan looked around the nursery now, as if realizing how unusual the moment was. Slowly, he moved to the other cribs. One by one, the children lifted their heads, sensing him through the air, not through sight, but through vibration. The Empress spoke quietly to her advisor beside her. "Record every detail. This behavior is impossible." "Yes, Majesty," the advisor replied, trembling. Inside the nursery, Ethan did not speak for several minutes. He simply walked, slowly and carefully, between the floating cribs, observing, listening, feeling. The way he moved was calm but precise, almost trained. He finally stopped between two cribs and placed both hands on the metal floor. He closed his eyes and breathed deeply. Almost instantly, the nursery filled with soft, gentle vibrations. Not loud, not dangerous, but comforting like a heartbeat. The children reacted immediately. Their antennae glowed. Their bodies relaxed. And they hummed back with their own tiny vibrations. It was communication. Ancient communication. The Empress's breath caught in her throat. "This is impossible," she whispered. "Only our ancestors knew this language. It is not spoken anymore. It is not taught anymore." Her advisor swallowed nervously. Then, how does he know it? The Empress didn't answer. She didn't know. Ethan opened his eyes again. He looked tired, exhausted, like someone who had carried too much weight for too long. But he smiled softly at the children. I missed this, he whispered to himself. Missed this? The Empress replayed the words in her mind. What had he done before coming here? What had he experienced on Earth or in space? What was he hiding? She needed answers. She needed him watched more closely than ever. That night, she did something she never expected to do. She entered the nursery herself. The doors opened with a hiss, and the guards stood aside. The Empress stepped in silently, her long cloak brushing the floor. The children sensed her immediately. Their antennae twitched, and their hums turned uncertain. She approached the smallest crib and lifted the child gently. The child tilted its head, searching for her with blind eyes. She whispered a royal phrase meant to trigger obedience, an instinctive bond between mother and heir, but the child did not react. No light, no motion, nothing. A sharp sting of fear pierced her heart. Slowly, she lowered the child back into the crib. How could this be? She muttered. They do not sense me? A voice behind her made her spin around. They do not respond to commands, Ethan said quietly from the doorway. They respond to truth and to emotion. The Empress stiffened, her guards reaching for weapons, but Ethan did not move. He did not bow. He simply walked closer slowly to one of the cribs. You can't train them the old way, he said softly. Their senses are different. Their vision is not in their eyes. It is in their hearts, in the vibrations of the world. The Empress felt heat rise inside her, anger mixed with shock. How do you know this? She demanded. Ethan looked at her with tired eyes filled with secrets. Before he could speak, the quiet baby in the smallest crib suddenly lifted its tiny hand and pointed directly at the Empress with perfect accuracy. A blind newborn should not be able to do that. The Empress's blood turned cold. Ethan whispered. They can see more than you think. The nursery went silent. The Empress realized something frightening. Her children were not weak. They were evolving. And Ethan might be the only one who understood how dangerous and powerful they truly were. The Empress did not sleep that night. She sat alone in her dark chamber, the silver walls reflecting her sharp features as she replayed the nursery footage again and again. Each time she watched the blind child point at her, she felt a cold pressure in her chest, something she had not felt in years. Fear. Her heirs were not acting like newborns. They were reacting like beings with senses beyond normal understanding. And the human janitor, Ethan, was connected to every reaction they made. Why? She whispered into the empty room. Why him? She summoned her elite scientists at once. They arrived nervously, carrying scrolls of data and trembling under her stare. Explain their behavior, the Empress demanded, tapping a clawed finger on the screen, showing the children's unusual responses. The chief scientist swallowed. Majesty, it is not simple. Your children seem to be using a second sensory system. Something ancient. Something we believed lost. Lost? She repeated sharply. He nodded quickly. Yes, our early ancestors were blind creatures. They saw the world through vibration, emotion, and sound waves. But over thousands of years, as our bodies changed, this sense disappeared. The Empress turned her gaze toward the screen where her blind children glowed softly in their cribs. They have this ancient sense? She asked. The scientist nodded again. Yes, Majesty. And it is stronger in them than in anything we have ever observed. The Empress stared at him coldly. Then tell me how a human understands it better than my entire empire. Silence filled the room. The scientists looked at one another, but none dared to speak. Finally, the chief scientist whispered, We do not know. The Empress dismissed them with a furious wave. As the doors shut behind them, she pressed her hand against the table, shaking. She hated not knowing. She hated feeling powerless. She hated that a human prisoner held knowledge she did not. Later, she returned to the nursery not as a ruler, but as a mother desperate for answers. Ethan was already there, checking the monitors beside the cribs. When he noticed her, he straightened but did not bow. "Your Majesty." The Empress studied his face carefully. He looked tired but calm. Too calm. "You knew," she said quietly. "Knew what?" Ethan replied, "That my children are not blind in the way we believed. That they can sense the world through vibration. That they can understand emotions. That they can even see lies." Ethan's expression tightened for a moment, just a flicker, but it was enough. "You knew," she repeated. He lowered his eyes. "Yes." The Empress felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. "How?" she demanded. "How do you understand a sense my own scientists cannot explain?" Ethan breathed in slowly, as if choosing his words carefully. "On Earth," he said quietly, "I worked in a secret lab. We studied alien DNA. Your species' DNA. We learned things even your own people forgot." The Empress's eyes narrowed. "So you are a scientist, not a janitor?" "I was," Ethan replied. "Before the war took everything." The Empress felt heat in her chest. Anger, suspicion, and something else she hated to admit, curiosity. "So you lied," she said. He shook his head. "I never lied. I just never spoke." The Empress took a step closer. "Then answer me. Why do my children trust you? Why do they react to you?" Ethan hesitated only for a heartbeat, but she saw it. "Because I understand their pain," he said softly. "I understand what it means to see the world without eyes. To rely on feeling instead of sight." The Empress frowned. "What do you mean?" Ethan looked at the smallest child in the nearest crib. "When your armies destroyed my home," he said quietly, "I lost people I loved. My world went dark. I survived. But inside, I could not see anything. Only pain, only silence. For a long time, I lived like your children, blind, but sensing everything." The nursery felt suddenly heavier, filled with unspoken grief. The Empress did not respond. She simply watched him, studying the emotion in his face. Emotion she never expected to see in a human prisoner. But her thoughts were interrupted by a flashing red alarm on the wall. An urgent message appeared on the screen. "Unidentified ships entering ORB." Her advisor's voice crackled through the communicator. "Majesty! Enemy scouts. They are searching for something. Maybe the heirs." The Empress felt a sharp sting of dread. Her secret was no longer safe. She turned to Ethan. "You will stay here," she ordered. "You will protect them." Ethan met her eyes not as a prisoner, but as someone ready to fight. "I will," he said. "No matter what comes." The Empress paused before leaving. For the first time, her voice softened. "Tell me one thing, human. Are my children in danger from you?" Ethan looked at the sleeping newborns and shook his head gently. "I would die before I hurt them." The Empress held his gaze for a moment, searching for lies. But her children's antennae glowed softly in peaceful rhythm. Truth. Ethan was telling the truth, and that truth frightened her more than any enemy ship in orbit. The palace alarms screamed through every hall, sharp and metallic, echoing like warning calls from ancient beasts. Red lights flashed along the ceilings, turning the silver walls into waves of bloody color. Guards ran in organized lines, but their voices carried one truth. Someone had found the heirs. Inside the secret nursery, Ethan stood completely still, listening carefully as the alarms grew louder. The children sensed the danger instantly. Their tiny bodies shook, their antennae trembling with fear. The soft vibration hum that usually filled the room turned sharp and panicked. Ethan moved quickly to calm them. But he felt the air shift, a strange pressure pulsing through the walls. "They're coming here," he whispered. He didn't know how he felt it, but he did. The same way the children sensed emotions. Ethan sensed the danger approaching. He grabbed a metal bar, jammed it against the nursery door, and locked every manual switch he could find. "It's okay," he whispered to the children. "I'm not leaving you." But even he heard the fear in his own voice. In the palace tower, the Empress watched a swarm of enemy drones break through the outer defenses. They floated like dark metal insects, silent and deadly, slipping through cracks in the shield as if they were born out of shadows themselves. How did they get this close without detection? General Valker shouted. The Empress's voice was icy. "They knew exactly where to go. Someone leaked the existence of my children. Majesty, we must move the heirs." "Now." "No," the Empress snapped. "The safest place is the nursery. And Ethan is with them." General Valker hesitated. "He is only human." The Empress looked sharply at him. "He has already done what none of you could." Her advisor swallowed hard. "Then may he keep them alive long enough for us to reach him." The first drone reached the nursery door with a quiet click, almost gentle. Ethan stepped back, shielding the cribs with his body. His heart pounded in his chest like a trapped drum. But he did not run. He couldn't. He remembered lost faces crying out for help before the Empire destroyed his world. He remembered being helpless. Not again. Not this time. The nursery door exploded inward. Smoke filled the room as 3 spider-like drones crawled inside, glowing red eyes scanning every corner. Their legs were sharp, their movements fast, and each carried a small, deadly plasma blade. The children screamed in silent vibration waves. Ethan stepped in front of them. "Stay behind me," he whispered. One drone leaped toward him. Ethan ducked, grabbing a metal pole and slamming it into the drone's neck. Sparks flew, but the drone recovered instantly, turning back with murderous precision. Ethan did not give up. He charged again, swinging harder, smashing the drone into the wall. It cracked open and collapsed. The second drone fired a beam of red light. The shot hit a machine behind Ethan, exploding wires and filling the air with smoke. The children cried louder, their vibrations shaking the cribs. Ethan raised his hands. He did not understand why he did it. He did not understand how it worked, but his hands glowed. That same faint golden shimmer the Empress had seen earlier. The shimmer spread like a protective wave, soft but powerful. The vibration pulse from the children mixed with Ethan's energy, creating a shield that pushed the drone back. The drone skidded across the floor, metal screeching. Ethan stared at his own hands, shocked. What is happening to me? But there was no time to think. The third drone rushed the cribs. Ethan jumped between it and the children, tackling it to the ground. The drone cut his arm with its blade, burning hot pain through his skin. He gritted his teeth, choking back a scream. He fought with everything inside him. Fear, anger, grief, and managed to rip the drone's blade off, stabbing it back into the machine. It collapsed with a hiss, but Ethan collapsed too. His breath came in short, painful bursts. His arm bled, and his strength was fading. The children's antennae glowed bright blue, vibrating in unison. They sensed Ethan's pain. They sensed his fear. And they sensed his determination to protect them. And something deep inside them responded. A soft humming built in the room. Stronger, stronger, stronger. Then the children released a combined wave of pure vibration energy. The remaining drones in the hall outside shattered instantly. The walls shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. But inside the nursery, Ethan and the children remained untouched. The vibration wave protected them. Moments later, the doors burst open, not with drones, but with royal guards and the Empress herself. She stopped at the threshold. staring at the destroyed drones around Ethan. He sat on the floor, shaking, his arm wounded. But the children were alive. Alive because of him. The Empress knelt beside him. Her voice softer than it had ever been. "You protected them," she whispered. Ethan smiled weakly. "I promised you I would." Then his body leaned forward, exhaustion overtaking him as he fell. The smallest child reached out and touched his injured arm with its tiny hand, its antenna glowing as if offering comfort. The Empress watched, stunned. A human, bleeding and broken, had done what her entire army could not, and it left her kingdom shaken. The palace medics worked quickly, their hands shaking as they carried Ethan through silver hallways, filled with dust and smoke. The alarms had gone silent at last, but the fear in the air remained heavy. Everyone knew the truth now. The enemy had not attacked the palace. They had attacked the heirs. Ethan drifted in and out of consciousness as they placed him on a soft healing bed. His arm was badly burned, and his body was bruised from the fight. But even in pain, he kept asking one question. Are the children safe? Did the Empress reach them? A medic nodded nervously. Yes. Because of you. Ethan finally relaxed, his eyes closing. Meanwhile, in the secret nursery, the Empress stood alone among the floating cribs. Her children glowed softly, each one pulsing with calm energy now that the danger had passed. But their calmness was not because of her, it was because of him. The human. The Empress touched the rim of one crib gently, letting her finger trace the smooth metal. The child inside reached toward her, sensing her presence. But she could feel it. There was distance between them. A gap she did not understand. She whispered, "Why do you trust him more than me?" The child hummed a slow, warm vibration. It felt like an answer, but not one she could understand. The Empress clenched her fist. She was the ruler of an empire. She commanded armies. She controlled planets, yet her own blind babies understood. A human more than their mother. That truth hurt more than any blade. When she entered the medical chamber, the guards straightened and bowed. Ethan lay on the bed, breathing lightly, his injured arm wrapped in glowing healing cloth. His face was pale, but peaceful. The Empress dismissed the medics with a wave. She stood beside the sleeping human and studied him, really studied him for the first time. His body was thin, tired, shaped by years of suffering. His face carried lines of loss and pain. But beneath that, there was strength. Strength she had never seen in a human before. She felt a strange coldness inside her, an emotion she had not allowed herself to feel for many years. "Gup, you protected what is mine," she whispered. "At a cost your people should never have paid." Her words surprised even herself. As she turned to leave, Ethan shifted slightly. His eyes opened, tired but alert. "You came," he murmured. The Empress did not show her emotions. She stood tall, hands behind her back. "You saved the heirs," she said simply. Ethan gave a weak smile. "They saved me too," the Empress frowned. "How?" "They gave me something I lost long ago," he whispered. "Purpose." She felt her breath catch. No one had spoken so honestly to her in years. Ethan looked at the ceiling, remembering. "When your armies attacked my world, Majesty, I lost everything. My family, my work, my home. I thought my life had ended." The Empress remained silent. "But then I met your children," Ethan continued softly. "They were blind. And so was I, not with my eyes, but with my heart. I was broken. I couldn't feel anything. Until they reached out to me." He closed his eyes for a moment. "They don't see the world the way we do. They see emotion, intention, truth. When I first stepped into that nursery, they sensed my pain. And somehow, they trusted me." The Empress felt something sharp inside her chest. She whispered, "Do you hate me, human?" Ethan opened his eyes again, staring at her without fear. "Yes," he said honestly. But I do not hate your children. His truth struck her like a blade. But she respected him for it. So what do you want? She asked. Revenge? Ethan shook his head. No, I want them to grow without fear. Without war. Without the cruelty that took my world. The Empress felt her throat tighten. His words were impossible, unthinkable, yet she heard truth in every syllable, for the first time in many years. She felt the weight of her own choices. The children needed something she could not give: gentleness, patience, emotional understanding. But Ethan could. She turned away, hiding her expression. You may live, she said quietly. Not as a slave. Not as a prisoner. Ethan frowned weakly. Then, what am I? The Empress paused at the door. You are now guardian of the heirs. Ethan blinked in shock. A human? Guardian of alien royalty? Yes, her voice was firm, but her heart trembled. Because you earned it with your blood. And with your truth. As she walked out, she whispered to herself, if the heirs must trust someone, let it be the one who would die before harming them. But even as she said the words, a darker fear grew in her mind. If Ethan understood the children better than her entire empire, what else would he uncover? And what would the empire do when they learned a human now protected the future empresses? The palace had survived the attack, but a storm much bigger was coming. The palace stood strangely quiet after the attack. No alarms, no soldiers running, no scientists shouting. Only silence, heavy, thick, and full of fear. Word had already begun to spread through the empire. A human had saved the royal heirs. Some aliens whispered it with respect. Many whispered it with anger, but none whispered louder than the nobles deep in their private chambers. The high nobles gathered in secret, their voices sharp and poisoned. A human cannot be the guardian of the heirs. It breaks every law our ancestors made. If the Empress allows this, our entire power structure will fall. Their rage built like a rising storm. They wanted Ethan gone. They wanted their Empress to obey tradition, not emotion, and if she didn't, they were prepared to force her. Meanwhile, in the medical chamber, Ethan slowly sat up from the healing bed. His wounds were closing, glowing faint green from alien medicine. He still felt weak, but stronger than the day before. A soft vibration hum filled the room. The nursery doors opened, and the Empress entered with the heirs floating around her in their tiny cribs. Their antennae glowed when they sensed Ethan, pure blue, the color of joy. The smallest child reached toward him immediately. Ethan smiled tiredly. You missed me? The child hummed a gentle sound that made the Empress pause. She had never heard such warmth from her children. For a moment, jealousy pricked her heart, but she pushed it away. She cleared her throat. Ethan, stand. Ethan stood, though he wobbled slightly. I have made a decision, the Empress said, her voice cold but steady. The kingdom must hear the truth, and they will hear it from me. Ethan frowned. Your Majesty, the nobles, I know what they want, she snapped. But this decision is mine. She stepped forward. When the attack came, my soldiers failed. My generals failed. My defenses failed. She looked at Ethan. But you did not. Ethan lowered his eyes. Any parent would do the same. The Empress stared at him. You are not their parent. He said nothing, but the children answered for him. Their antennae glowed gold, the rarest color of all. A color of trust. A color of chosen bond. The Empress had never seen such a reaction. Something inside her shifted. Come, she said. The kingdom will see what has changed. The throne hall filled with aliens of every rank. Nobles in tall, shimmering robes. Soldiers in steel armor. Advisors with long scrolls. Even workers and low-born attendants were allowed to stand along the walls. Everyone waited for the Empress to speak. Ethan stood beside her. Many nobles hissed in disgust at the sight of a human in the sacred chamber, But then the heirs floated in. The entire hall fell silent. The blind children hummed softly. Sensing the emotions in the room, anger, fear, pride, hatred. Their antennae flickered through colors as they read the crowd like open books. The Empress raised her hand. Silence deepened. My children would be dead, she began, if not for this man. The room shook with whispers. A human? Impossible. A trick. The Empress slammed her staff against the floor. The sound echoed like thunder. This human fought to protect what you could not. He faced death without armor, without weapons, without rank. And he bled for the heirs of our kingdom. She stepped aside. Ethan stood alone at the center of the hall. Confused and overwhelmed, the smallest heir floated down from its crib, tiny hands reaching. The child touched Ethan's injured arm gently, humming a sound that filled the hall with warm vibrations. The nobles gasped. The Empress spoke loudly. My children trust him. They follow him. They see him. A deep pause. And if they choose him, then so do I. The hall erupted with outrage. This breaks the laws. A human cannot guide royalty. It is unnatural. The Empress raised her voice, sharper than a blade. Then our laws will change. Everyone froze. Her next action shocked the entire empire. The Empress slowly lowered herself to one knee beside Ethan, a ruler kneeling before a human. Gasps filled the hall. Some nobles backed away in horror. She spoke clearly. Ethan of Earth, you are no longer a prisoner. You are no longer a servant. By the will of the heirs and the authority of the crown, I name you royal guardian of the future empresses. Ethan's eyes widened. He shook his head. Your Majesty, I'm not worthy. You are, she said softly. Because you showed my children something my kingdom forgot long ago. She touched her hand to her heart. Compassion. The hall vibrated as the heirs hummed together, a beautiful, bright sound that filled the air like music, but far above the palace in the shadows of space. A silent ship watched the ceremony. A voice whispered inside it. So, the Empress kneels to a human. This empire is weaker than I thought. A new threat had seen everything, and war was coming.